Hey guys, it's your girl Madison and this is The Mindset. So first off, I want to start off by saying my fault. I didn't mean to take that hiatus that I went on, but basically it's been a lot going on. Your girl moved, my lease ended, I was in between places, got a new place, this is my new place, still haven't gotten furniture yet, so I'm about to get furniture tomorrow. It's going to be a whole thing. So basically what I'm trying to say is, I didn't mean to be gone, but now I'm back, so hello. But anywho, enough of that chit chat. So we're gonna get started on today's video. I'm gonna be talking about mental health again, because that's kind of my thing. I'm gonna be talking about that a lot. I did a poll on Twitter to ask you guys what kind of stuff you would want, which by the way, if you don't follow me on Twitter, if you don't follow me on Instagram, and if you still haven't subscribed to me, I don't know what you're doing right now, but you need to get on all that, because my links are down below. It's not too hard to find me. So what you need to do is follow me, like my videos, comment, subscribe, do all that stuff. But anywho, back to what I was saying. So on today's video, we're gonna be talking about psychotic mental disorders. There's just a whole lot of stuff that goes into it, and it's kind of a touchy subject because when we talk about mental health, you typically hear about anxiety, depression, maybe OCD, maybe PTSD. Those are typically like the main ones that people hear about and are kind of like more so comfortable with talking about, I guess. But in terms of psychotic disorders, that's more so the thing that people are kind of like, I don't know about that one, dog. But honestly though, it doesn't even matter if it's anxiety, depression, schizophrenia, whatever. If you got a disorder, you got a disorder. So let's talk about it.
Period.
So it's a whole list of psychotic disorders. We got schizophrenia, schizoaffective disorder, schizophreniform disorder, pre-psychotic disorder, delusional disorder, substance-induced psychotic disorder due to medical condition, and we got paraphrenia. And I know I said a lot, but we're going to talk about it all, so sit back, get comfortable, and get ready to learn something new today. And of all the psychotic disorders, schizophrenia is the most common one, so that's more so what we're going to be talking about. I'm going to touch on all the ones I mentioned, but we're definitely going to have a big focus on schizophrenia in this video. And schizophrenia is one of those disorders that's technically classified as a mental handicap or disability because of the way that it impacts your mind. Someone who has this may have a combination of hallucinations, delusions, distorted speech, distorted thinking, and if it impairs your daily functioning, then that's when it becomes a disorder. That's when it becomes a disability. Do y'all hear that squeaking? That shit is annoying as fuck. All I'm trying to do is make this video, so I don't understand what the floor is trying to talk to. Now, someone with schizophrenia who experiences hallucinations, those hallucinations usually involve seeing things or hearing things that are simply not there. And someone with this disorder who has hallucinations, their hallucinations may either be visual hallucinations or auditory hallucinations, or even both. They may see and hear things that really aren't there. They may hear voices in their head. And those auditory hallucinations could be just as clear as how I'm talking right now. It can sound like someone is directly in the room next to you. They can sound like someone is whispering. They can also sound like the internal voice in your head, but a bit more amplified and more difficult to control. The auditory hallucinations that someone with schizophrenia may experience can seem just as real as anything else. And the thing about that I personally think is very alarming is the fact that someone who has schizophrenia may see and hear things that really are not there and think things and have these very strong beliefs that simply are not true. They may have these very strong held beliefs, these delusions, these hallucinations that to them seem very true, but to everyone else who's around them, it's not. And to convince someone of that is very difficult. You can't really tell them shit else. And it's unfortunate because someone who experiences schizophrenia, some of the things that they may be thinking can be very harmful, and it's very difficult to get them out of that mindset, especially if there's someone who is not diagnosed or someone who doesn't believe that they need treatment, because whatever it is that they may be seeing, thinking, or believing, regardless of how outlandish it may be, it is very, very true to them. If you know somebody who has experienced that before, it's very imperative to be understanding of their condition, because at the end of the day, their sense of reality is highly distorted. Now, granted, with schizophrenia, there are definitely different variations of someone's severity with it, but overall, someone who has it, their sense of reality is distorted. So to tell somebody who has that what they're seeing, believing, thinking is not real, that's a confrontation waiting to happen unless you know the correct ways to help someone who has that. And another symptom that I mentioned was delusions. Now, someone who has schizophrenia may have very strong delusions and beliefs that they're being harassed, they're being watched, they're being stalked, that the government's out to get them, aliens or something are there, they're here to hurt you, and things like that. And this may sound pretty silly to someone who doesn't really understand schizophrenia and other psychotic disorders, or someone who just has never been around someone who has that. especially when you're around someone who has that and you don't know that they have that. That's another big thing as well. You should always be very cautious around people in general. Be very careful with the words that you say and how they come out, because if someone has a psychotic disorder, something that you say can be very triggering. So it's very imperative that if you ever are to deal with someone who has a psychotic disorder, be very careful with how you talk to them and the things that you say, and be very intentional with that as well, because the last thing that you would want to do is to trigger them and put them on a spiral that can cause them to have an episode. Another symptom of schizophrenia is distorted thinking or distorted speech. They kind of go hand in hand in a way. Someone who has this, their ability to communicate can be kind of off. And it can be very difficult to pay attention to everything that they're saying in the details, because some things really may be off track and things can be very loosely based. Now, someone with schizophrenia may say something along the lines of, oh, be careful with the media that you watch or the music that you listen to because of the messages that you're going to be intaking, which is very true. But at the same time, they may also go on a side tangent of how music or media or something like that is purposefully attacking them, or it's purposely out to get specific individuals, when that may not be the case. Or they may say something like, oh, you should cover your phone up or cover your webcam because people could be watching, which, yes, is very true. But they may also have this very, very intense belief that they themselves are being watched, or that there's hidden cameras everywhere, and things like that. And things like that can be very tricky to handle, because someone with schizophrenia may say things that, okay, that's a fair point, that part could be true, but the way that they interpret it and how strong-held those beliefs can be is what can be very alarming. With someone who has a psychotic disorder, they may take certain things and run with it, and they can be very triggered very easily, so be cautious. But at the same time, don't be afraid, because at the end of the day, it's a mental illness, it's not their fault. They may say things or tell stories in such a way that's difficult to follow, because the way that their brain is set up and the way that their communication is impaired, it can kind of sound like word salads, so meaningless words, meaningless sentences, stories that are very loosely related, if related at all. Sometimes they tie back together, but sometimes they also don't. So to keep up with the conversation of someone who has schizophrenia can be very difficult. And another symptom of someone with schizophrenia is negative symptoms. And when I say the word negative, I don't mean bad. When I say negative, I mean when things are taken away. For example, someone with this disorder might have difficulty with keeping up with their hygiene, difficulty with expressing emotions, making eye contact, doing activities that they typically would like, or possibly even an inability to perform those functions. And schizophrenia can affect both men and women. With men, if a man were to have schizophrenia, that typically would come in at around their early to mid 20s. With women, it tends to be their mid to late 20s. But at the same time, there are also situations where it can be a rare case that it doesn't even happen until they're in their 40s or late 30s or something like that. Something about schizophrenia that I personally think is troubling is the fact that we do not know a cause for how it happens. But what we do know is that it has to do with a combination of your brain chemistry, stressful triggers that you may experience in life, family history. In going into the brain, someone with schizophrenia may have issues with their neurotransmitters and with their dopamine and glutamate. And the next one we're going to be getting into is schizoaffective disorder. Now, with schizoaffective disorder, that's a combination of schizophrenia and a mood disorder. And that mood disorder could be something like depression or bipolar disorder. And with schizoaffective disorder, this person may experience the similar symptoms that I just mentioned with schizophrenia, on top of issues with depression and mania. Now, with schizoaffective disorder, it's also kind of similar to schizophrenia and how some of the symptoms may occur, but then you take that coupled with possible mania and depression, and then you have schizoaffective disorder. And with this disorder, a lot of people who have it tend to be misdiagnosed at first. They tend to be diagnosed with either straight up schizophrenia or bipolar disorder, not realizing that it's a combination of both. And this disorder is relatively rare, which is basically why we don't know as much information about it as we do with schizophrenia and some other disorders. And with this one, it affects roughly 0.3% of the population, men and women both experiencing it at the same rate. And like I said, schizoaffective disorder is similar to schizophrenia in many ways, but the difference comes in with manic behavior or depressive behavior. Someone with depressive symptoms may experience negative symptoms as well, which is maybe lack of hygiene, lack of mood expression, lack of facial expression, things like that. Now, with manic behavior, someone who has this, they may experience euphoria, be more prone to risky behavior, have very quick and racing thoughts, and things like that. And with this particular disorder, once again, we don't know the cause of it, but we do have an idea of what the combinations are that can lead to it. Now, like I said with schizophrenia, same thing in regards to brain chemistry, familial history, in a stressful environment that someone's in. It may also be due to drug use. Like, for example, LSD can be related to psychoaffective disorder. And the next one we're going to be talking about is schizophreniform disorder. Now with this one, once again, it's similar to the other ones that we just mentioned. The symptoms are similar, the causes are similar, the age range is similar. The difference between the ones that I mentioned and schizophreniform disorder is that this one tends to last less than 6 months. The big issue though is that they may experience a high amount of psychosis, and it can be very difficult for the person who experiences it to be able to differentiate between what's real and what's being imagined. And then we have brief psychotic disorder, which is exactly what it sounds like. It's a psychotic disorder that's brief.
Duh.
Next one, and once again the cause of it isn't exactly clear. Like if someone undergoes a major stress or a traumatic event such as like the death of a loved one, an assault, or a traumatic life event in terms of like a natural disaster or something like that. And that can trigger a psychotic episode. And luckily with this one, with proper therapy and treatment and plenty of love and support, you can get through this one. But if brief psychotic disorder is not handled correctly, then it has the potential to lead into schizophrenia, psychoaffective disorder, or another disorder that I've mentioned this far. And the next one we have is delusional disorder, which used to go by the name of paranoia disorder. And someone who has a delusional disorder experiences high amounts of psychosis. So for them, it's very difficult to differentiate between what's real in the real world versus what is real in their minds. And with a delusional disorder, they experience delusions, which are basically a very fixed set of a belief or fixed beliefs that tend not to change, even if evidence is presented to them that directly debunks whatever it is that they're thinking. And these delusions can be something like they're being followed around by people, the government's watching them, maybe they're being stalked. Or these delusions can be in regards to someone replacing their organs when they're asleep. You know, they may have a belief that they are reincarnate of some historic figure or popular figure. Current government officials are directly communicating with them, despite the fact that they themselves may have no political ties whatsoever. And they are very set on that. So if you're dealing with someone who has that, please be very cautious in the words that you say and how you address them and how you go about it. Please don't be quick to laugh off what they're saying or be quick to argue with them. Just be very careful, because the last thing you want to do is trigger them. Please do your research. Please be open-minded, and please, please, please be willing to learn and change your beliefs. And then the next one we have is called substance-induced psychotic disorder, which basically boils down to someone who may experience psychosis due to taking a substance, whether it be a drug or a medication that has adverse effects. And with this particular disorder, it tends to not be very long-term. Usually when this person stops taking that medication or stops taking that drug or whatever that substance may be, typically those psychotic symptoms tend to go away. But there have been times where someone may have taken too much of a drug like LSD, PCP, copious amounts of marijuana or something like that, and it brings them to a state of psychosis. And you can experience a psychotic episode with any drug, whether it be alcohol, cannabis, methamphetamine-induced, LSD, any drug that you can take. If you take it in copious amounts, you can experience a state of psychosis for a period of time. And the last psychotic disorder we're going to be talking about is paraphrenia. Now, this disorder is often misconstrued with schizophrenia, but paraphrenia tends to be more so later in life. Often affects individuals who are a little bit older, like people who are elderly or damn near elderly may experience this. And your neurotransmitters tend not to work as well and whatnot, and it's just more so a slow and gradual deterioration of your mental state. And this can also be triggered by a tumor, a stroke, or another neurodegenerative disease. And with all the disorders that I've just mentioned, it's very important to understand the fact that there is no known cure as of yet. Because as I mentioned earlier, we don't know the causes for any of them, therefore it will be very difficult to figure out a cure for them. But with psychotherapy and medication and a very strong support system of the people around them, they can lead very healthy and normal lives. But it's very important that these disorders are caught early and monitored so that things don't continue to spiral out of control, whether someone's mental state is continuing to deteriorate to the point where it can be very difficult for them to pick things back up, or maybe their episodes or maybe the way that they think and whatnot has altered their daily life, so it could be hard for them to play catch up. So you must make sure that you are staying aware and that the person is staying aware of the implication that this may have later on if it's not handled appropriately at the appropriate time. So if you have someone who's very near and dear to your heart who's dealing with schizophrenia, schizoaffective disorder, or any of the other disorders that I've mentioned, not only should you take care of them, not only should you try your best to make sure that they're okay, but please make sure that you're okay. It can do a very large toll to your personal mental health if you're taking care of someone or helping someone who is not mentally well. So please be cautious of that and make sure that you stay covered and you stay protected. And I want to say thank you guys so much for watching this video. Continue to support my channel. Please, please, please like, comment, subscribe, share the video. Please continue to help me boost my channel up so I can keep spreading information so that my channel can continue to grow and I can continue to spread these positive messages. So once again, thank you guys so much for watching, and I once again urge everyone to take care of yourself, stay protected, stay covered, and do what you gotta do to make sure that you are successful.